Rick9G here. What's up, classic TV show fans? My name is Rick9G. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about I Love Lucy. I'm so proud to say that this is my official 300th I Love Lucy video. Not official 300th video of the channel. No, I have over 1,570 videos on the channel. This is just the 300th video I focused on an I Love Lucy episode or just on a video idea. If you have missed all of those or have just maybe seen one or two, I'll show you. There's a link in the description where it has the I Love Lucy playlist. You can watch all 300 videos there free of charge. You can enjoy them. If you watch a few and then go somewhere, you can always come back and it'll save your spot. Playlists are wonderful to use. So thank you so much for celebrating this. I'm going big. We're going to be talking about a really cool idea that I figured out as I was looking at the show, and that's how many times Lucy was actually scared on the show. Now, this won't be every single time, but have you ever noticed that looking at a video of I Love Lucy? Lucy being scared. Maybe you may have noticed it once or twice. Let me know in the comments below if you have noticed it, and then we'll look at many of the episodes where she was scared, and you may be surprised at knowing why this was so popular and why it was done so much. Let's get right to it with the first moment. With the first moment, we'll look at Lucy is jealous of a girl singer. Now, this is from season 1 of I Love Lucy. It's episode 11. And in this one, we hear the very popular Jezebel number. Now, there's a gossip column that Lucy finds out says that Ricky is going to be dancing with a woman. Now, Ethel brings this to the attention of Lucy, and it brings the girls to become scrub women, go to the club. It's a really funny scene, but that's not what I'm focusing here about. I'm focusing on the moment where Lucy is being scared by Ethel. Now, that's a common theme, that it's actually Lucy that's the one that's being scared. And there's just this common scene that you can see. Lucy is occupied. She's actually vacuuming. And we see Ethel come up behind her, try to talk to her. And you can see, boom, Lucy is startled. You see her freak out and turn around to see Ethel. Basically the first scare that we see on the series, but you have to remember it's really quick, it's almost incidental, and you're gonna see as we go throughout a lot of these scares that they get more boisterous, more crazy, more exaggerated. This one was fairly subtle and just part in there, and there was actually not a lot of laughs that came from it. Let's look at some other ones. So actually you can say that this is the first scared moment. It's from the episode Be a Pal, also from season 1. It's episode 3. The reason why it's episode 3 is if we count the actual pilot would be episode 1. Now in this one we see Lucy is noticing that Ricky and her don't have the greatest connection at this moment. Kind of things are going stale, and Lucy realizes that it's because she looks so bad in the morning. She's not really giving Ricky a reason to give her attention, and so she tries to impress him in the Mama Yo Quiero episode or scene in the episode. It's a great one. But what we see is Lucy on the phone after one of her failed attempts to seduce or just get Ricky's attention, and Ethel is calling her. Now Lucy thinks that Ethel is talking to her on the phone, but she's actually just talking to her through the kitchen window, and when she realizes this, she turns around and just lets out a big scream and goes, "Ah!" like that. And other than this, we can't really compare it too much to the first one. One is a physical startle, and the other is a more she was jolted into the moment. Let's look at the next one. So I will be jumping around. These won't be in chronological order. The next one is from Home Movies. This is a season 3 episode. It's actually episode 86, and it is personally my favorite I Love Lucy episode. We know the old cow hand, right? Or when Fred says, "I got wind of it," right? Such a good episode. So funny with the little special effects of Ricky being upside down as he sings and the cowboys. Just a great episode. But before this, earlier on, Ricky was trying to show everyone his home movies, and everyone fell asleep, including the Mertzes. Afterwards, they were very embarrassed, and they were coming to the apartment where they were just peeking their heads through the window of the Ricardo's kitchen, and Lucy doesn't notice until she, boom, gets startled. So this is the first moment we see Lucy getting startled by two people. Again, this is the third time we see a theme of Lucy getting startled. This is a theme. It is a theme through I Love Lucy, and I will continue showing more examples of this. And now we see the Indian show. It's one that many of you really like. By the way, let me know your favorite of these in the comments down below and tell me why. Tell me if you like the scare scene in that episode, and then tell me if you like the episode in general. I love to hear your thoughts. It's always really, really interesting to see the variety of answers. This is episode 59, and it's one, of course, where the Indians come to Lucy's home and they scare her. The whole club, Ricky decides to have kind of an Indian theme with different numbers and so forth, and the whole Hiawatha thing that Lucy does at the club, and the whole moon scene with the baby in the back. Just a great episode. But before this, Lucy is in the living room and she's reading these scary or just frightening stories about what the Indians would do in the past, all these historical tales, and Ethel comes to her and gets right up next to her and startles Lucy. She freaks out. Lucy's actual response and being startled is pretty out of control, and I think you could see the growth here between season 1 and 2, how they're just playing it up more for laughs. You can see, I mean, the show wanted laughs, and the scare tactic really worked. Everyone apparently enjoyed seeing Lucy being scared. Now let's move on to the episode called The Camping Trip. Now this is the first time that we see the Ricardos essentially outside of their apartment at another location in the campgrounds. It's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. One where Ethel kind of helps Lucy to trick Ricky with what's going out. It's from season 2. It's episode 64. It's one of my top, I would say, 20 episodes for sure. It's really good. Now the scare happens in the location of the campgrounds, where Lucy has already had Ricky left the campground, and Lucy's trying to look for Ethel. So Ethel comes, not really trying to sneak up behind Lucy, but just trying to be quiet so no one else hears except Lucy, and Lucy gets startled with all the camp gear and Ethel being behind her. Again, the constant theme of Lucy being scared. Now, Sentimental Anniversary is from season 3. It's episode 82. It's one where Lucy and Ricky want to spend just an intimate night alone in regards to their anniversary, but the Mertzes actually create a surprise party, which creates an issue for the Ricardos. It's one that many of you probably remember, but I don't know if you've ever noticed the actual scaring that goes along. Well, it happens right at the beginning of the episode. Lucy actually bought Ricky some golf clubs as presents, or as a present for the anniversary, and she's swinging them, trying out the different putters and drivers and so forth. And Ethel comes into the room, but this one's different. It's Lucy who's actually scaring Ethel. It's just the one-off here. I know this video is focused on Lucy being scared, but in this time they actually tried Ethel being scared, and although people liked it, they reverted back to Lucy constantly being scared. I think that just worked best for production and for the audience reaction in general. Now, I know that the season 4 episode called Ethel's Birthday, it's episode 106, and it's one of many of your favorites. Many of you really, really, really like this episode. Now, of course, as the name says, it is Ethel's birthday, and Fred is struggling to find a gift for her. He goes to Lucy and says, "Hey, can you find her something great?" And Lucy gets these weird checkered hostess pants, who are apparently in style, but Ethel hates them, and so it creates Lucy being upset at the gift that she got Ethel. It's one that I said many of you enjoy, but the scare happens right at the beginning. Lucy is picking up a lot of the toys that little Ricky left behind, and she is bent over, not noticing Ethel coming into the kitchen. She kind of bends over and then scares Lucy. I don't know if you noticed this one. The reason I say that is because it's right at the beginning, and sometimes the beginning of these unedited episodes are cut out in syndication, so some of these scenes are pulled off. So let me know if you have seen this moment in the reruns. Now, the episode Lucy thinks Ricky is trying to murder her, that is back from season 1. Now, it was the first ever filmed of I Love Lucy, but it came 5th in terms of chronology. Now, in this one, as the name says, Lucy is thinking that Ricky's trying to murder her, but that is not true at all. This is just a misunderstanding, much like Three's Company would do later with every episode. But essentially, in this one, Lucy's reading a lot of these stories, kind of similar to the Indian episode. She's reading this just murder mystery type thing, and she is scared all the time. Now Ethel comes into the kitchen and scares Lucy when she is reading it. It also happens a couple times throughout the episode. I won't show you every single one of those moments. It actually happens 2 or 3 times throughout the course of the episode, but I'll just show you this one, just highlighting how she was very much scared in this episode. And finally, this is also a season 1 episode. It's called Lucy's Schedule. One of my favorites from season 1. Such a great one with Gil Gordon. And the woman who played his wife is just great, kind of teaming up with the girls and playing tricks on the boys. It's a great one. It's the 33rd episode of I Love Lucy. And essentially, Ricky is trying to portray that he's going to be a good boss at the Tropicana, trying to show off to his boss, Mr. Littlefield. And Lucy has to make a schedule because she's so disorganized. Now, it's, as I mentioned, probably one of your favorites, but around the middle of the episode, Lucy is vacuuming, and like the episode that I mentioned earlier on, Ethel comes from behind. They're having this big dinner and scares her again. It's essentially the same scene. It's not the same scene in terms of film, but it's the same scene in terms of what is happening. In the episode that I first mentioned, Lucy is jealous of the girl singer. So I want you to know there are probably more. If I missed them, let me know in the comments down below other times where Lucy is scared in other episodes. I'm just showing you a few here that I've found, but you can see, why did they do this? Well, the main purpose is because they tried it once and they thought, well, why don't we just make it a little bit more extreme, a little bit more extroverted? And when it did and it got great reactions, why would you take this out, right? It became a running gag. They even tried it once with Ethel. Didn't work too well, so they just kept it with Lucy, and I think it was a fantastic idea. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Which is your favorite? I really want to hear about it. Congratulations to the channel for reaching 300 I Love Lucy episodes. I'm so happy about that. Could not be done without your support. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, everyone, be hopeful. Thank you so much to my supporters on Patreon, especially my Diamond tier patrons. New patron Gerard D, David D, Citizen Kane 359, Greg S, Kevin K, Ricky, Sally, and Vito L. Make sure to check the links in the description to see how you could be on this list as well.